Nobody expected the news to come this fast. Just days earlier, NASCAR legend Kyle Busch was still talking about racing, still smiling in interviews, still preparing for what many believed would be another comeback season. Fans saw the familiar confidence, the fire, the determination that had defined his entire career. And then, everything suddenly went dark. On May 21, 2026, the racing world was shaken by horrifying reports that Kyle Busch had reportedly died at just 41 years old after a severe illness that few people truly understood. Within minutes, social media exploded. Fans refused to believe it. How could this happen? Wasn't he supposed to race again? What illness did he even have? But perhaps the biggest mystery of all wasn't only Kyle's sudden death. It was the silence from his wife, Samantha Busch. 4 days, she said nothing publicly. No statement, no interview, no explanation. And as rumors spread across the internet, fans began wondering if there was something far more devastating happening behind the scenes than anyone realized. Because according to reports emerging from NASCAR insiders, Kyle Busch's final days were far more painful than the public ever knew. For nearly 2 decades, Kyle Busch had become one of the most recognizable names in NASCAR history. Aggressive, fearless, emotional, sometimes controversial, but impossible to ignore. Love him or hate him, fans watched him. He built a reputation as one of the fiercest competitors the sport had ever seen. Race after race, he pushed limits that many drivers were too afraid to touch. His victories became legendary. His rivalries became unforgettable. And beneath the intensity of racing, there was another side to Kyle that fans slowly grew attached to over the years. The husband and father devoted to his family. His relationship with Samantha became one of the most talked about love stories in the NASCAR world. Together, they faced public struggles, private pain, and personal battles that fans admired them for overcoming. To many people, they looked unstoppable. But behind the scenes, something had reportedly started changing. In early May 2026, whispers began circulating around NASCAR garages that Kyle wasn't feeling well. At first, nobody thought much of it. Drivers pushed through pain all the time. Injuries, exhaustion, stress, it's part of the sport. But this felt different. According to reports, Kyle had been dealing with what insiders described only as a severe illness. The exact details were kept private, fueling even more speculation online. Some fans believed it was temporary. Others feared it was far worse. Still, hope remained strong because sources close to NASCAR claimed Kyle fully intended to return to racing. Even while reportedly hospitalized, many believed he would recover. That's what made the tragedy so shocking. Nobody thought the situation was life-threatening. Then suddenly, the updates stopped. As days passed, concern inside the NASCAR community quietly grew. Reporters noticed unusual silence from people close to Kyle. Fellow drivers avoided answering questions directly. Rumors spread rapidly across social media, with fans desperately searching for answers. And then came the devastating morning of May 21st. The announcement hit like a thunderstorm. Reports claimed Kyle Busch had passed away after being hospitalized during his battle with a severe illness. At the time, the exact cause of death had reportedly not yet been fully confirmed publicly, creating even more confusion and heartbreak. Just hours earlier, nobody imagined this would be the last day of Kyle Busch's life. The NASCAR world immediately fell into mourning. Teams released emotional tributes. Fans flooded social media with memories of their favorite moments. Former rivals spoke about his passion, his intensity, and the impact he had on racing forever. Some fans gathered outside racetracks, leaving flowers, hats, die-cast cars, and handwritten messages honoring the man they had watched for years. For many people, it didn't feel real. Kyle Busch was supposed to survive this. He was supposed to come back. But while the public grieved, another question continued haunting NASCAR fans everywhere. Where was Samantha Busch? As the internet exploded with theories and speculation, Samantha remained completely silent. No emotional statement. No interview. No explanation about Kyle's final hours. And that silence only intensified the mystery. Some believed she was too heartbroken to speak. Others feared there was more to the story than the public had been told. Fans began analyzing old interviews, recent photos, even Samantha's social media activity, searching for clues about what really happened during Kyle Busch's final days. Then suddenly, reports emerged that Samantha was finally preparing to speak publicly for the very first time since Kyle's death. And according to insiders, what she was about to reveal would shock the entire NASCAR world. Because behind Kyle Busch's tragic death, there may have been a heartbreaking truth nobody saw coming. But what Samantha Busch would reveal next left even longtime NASCAR fans completely stunned. After the reported death of Kyle Busch on May 21, 2026, the silence surrounding his family became one of the most haunting parts of the entire tragedy. Hours passed, then days, and still, Samantha Busch said nothing publicly. No emotional video, no public interview, no detailed statement explaining what really happened during Kyle's final days. For NASCAR fans already struggling to process the shocking news, that silence created even more mystery. Social media quickly became flooded with theories. Some fans believed Samantha was simply overwhelmed by grief and unable to speak. Others feared the situation behind closed doors had been far worse than the public realized. Because according to reports, Kyle's condition had reportedly deteriorated much faster than expected. And suddenly, people began asking terrifying questions. How long had he actually been sick? Did NASCAR insiders already know the truth? And most importantly, did Kyle himself realize how serious the illness had become? As speculation intensified online, reporters and fans started revisiting Kyle's recent appearances. Interviews that once seemed normal suddenly looked different. Small details people previously ignored now felt heartbreaking in hindsight. Fans noticed moments where Kyle appeared exhausted. Some pointed out interviews where his energy reportedly seemed lower than usual. Others remembered rumors circulating quietly through NASCAR garages earlier that month. Whispers that something serious might be happening behind the scenes. But at the time, almost nobody imagined the outcome would be this tragic. Because Kyle Busch wasn't just another driver. He was one of NASCAR's toughest competitors. A man known for fighting through pain, criticism, pressure, and controversy for years. That's why so many fans believed he would survive whatever battle he was facing. Even reports about his hospitalization initially didn't create full panic among supporters. According to insiders, many within the NASCAR world allegedly expected Kyle to recover and eventually return to racing. Some even claimed he had privately talked about future races while reportedly receiving treatment. That detail alone made the tragedy even more devastating, because it suggested Kyle never stopped believing he could come back. Then, late one evening, everything changed. According to reports, Samantha Busch finally released a deeply emotional public message addressing the heartbreaking loss of her husband. And almost instantly, the internet exploded. Fans described the statement as impossible to read without tears. The emotional tone reportedly revealed a level of pain the public had not fully understood until that moment. According to reports, Samantha described Kyle's final days as the hardest experience of our lives. She allegedly revealed that his condition had worsened rapidly behind closed doors while doctors fought desperately to stabilize him. That revelation stunned NASCAR fans everywhere. Because publicly, very little information had been shared about how serious Kyle's illness truly was. Suddenly, people realized there may have been an intense private battle happening away from cameras the entire time. And Samantha's words only became more heartbreaking from there. According to reports, she explained that Kyle continued trying to stay optimistic despite the worsening condition. Even while hospitalized, he reportedly kept asking about racing updates, upcoming NASCAR events, and messages from fans around the world. Incredibly, sources close to the family claimed Kyle still hoped he would eventually leave the hospital and race again. That level of determination emotionally shattered longtime fans. Because it sounded exactly like the Kyle Busch they had watched for years. Competitive, stubborn, fearless, refusing to quit no matter how difficult things became. But inside the hospital, the atmosphere had reportedly started changing. According to insiders, doctors and family members allegedly became increasingly concerned as complications from the illness reportedly intensified. Machines constantly monitored his condition. Loved ones reportedly remained nearby almost non-stop, hoping for signs of improvement. Meanwhile, outside the hospital walls, rumors spread rapidly across the internet. Some social media posts falsely claimed Kyle was already recovering. Others suggested the situation had become critical. Nobody knew what to believe anymore. And then Samantha reportedly revealed one detail that left NASCAR fans completely heartbroken. According to reports, there were moments during Kyle's final days where he allegedly tried comforting other people instead of focusing on himself. Even while severely ill, he reportedly worried about how his family would cope emotionally if things became worse. That revelation completely changed how many people viewed the tragedy. Because behind the image of the aggressive NASCAR superstar was a man reportedly trying to protect the people he loved, even while fighting for his own life. Then came the most emotional part of Samantha's reported statement. She allegedly described Kyle's final night as quiet, emotional, and terrifying. According to reports, family members had gathered close together after realizing the situation was becoming critical. The atmosphere inside the room reportedly shifted from hope to fear. Samantha allegedly said there were moments of silence that felt endless. Moments where nobody knew what to say. Moments where the reality of what might happen became impossible to ignore. And according to insiders, Kyle himself may have understood that things were changing. One report claimed he spent part of those final hours reflecting on family memories instead of racing. Another suggested he became emotional while speaking privately with Samantha about their children and future. For fans, hearing those details was devastating. Because suddenly, Kyle Busch no longer felt like an untouchable sports icon. He felt human, fragile, a husband and father facing the most painful battle of his life. Then finally, during the early hours of May 21, 2026, reports claimed the unthinkable happened. Kyle Busch had reportedly passed away at the age of 41. The news spread across social media with unbelievable speed. NASCAR fans around the world reacted in shock. Some openly cried during live streams. Others posted emotional tributes remembering the races they grew up watching. Former rivals, commentators, pit crew members, and longtime fans all shared memories honoring the impact Kyle had on the sport. Even people who spent years criticizing him admitted NASCAR would never feel the same again. But while tributes poured in publicly, Samantha's emotional message contained one final revelation that left fans speechless. Near the end of her statement, she reportedly hinted at a private conversation she shared with Kyle shortly before his death. A conversation she claimed she would carry forever. And according to reports, Kyle's alleged final words revealed a heartbreaking side of him the public almost never got to see. By the time the sun rose the morning after Kyle Busch's reported death, the NASCAR world no longer felt the same. Every sports channel was covering the tragedy. Every social media platform was flooded with emotional tributes. And for millions of fans, one painful reality still felt impossible to accept. Kyle Busch was gone. But while the public mourned the loss of a racing legend, the emotional message from Samantha Busch continued spreading across the internet, especially the final part of her statement. Because according to reports, Samantha finally revealed details about the last private conversation she shared with Kyle before his reported passing. And what she described left even longtime NASCAR fans deeply emotional. According to sources close to the family, Samantha said Kyle's final hours were nothing like people would expect from one of the fiercest competitors in racing history. There was no anger, no dramatic outburst, no fear-filled panic. Instead, she described a man who had become quiet, emotional, and reflective. After spending most of his life racing at impossible speeds, Kyle reportedly spent his final moments thinking about the people he loved most. His family, his children, the life he and Samantha built together away from the spotlight. According to reports, there were moments where Kyle allegedly looked exhausted but still tried reassuring everyone around him that things would somehow be okay. Even while seriously ill, he reportedly worried more about his family's emotional pain than his own suffering. That detail completely broke fans online. Because for years, the public image of Kyle Busch had been built around intensity and toughness. Fans knew him as aggressive, fearless, and brutally competitive. But Samantha's words revealed something entirely different behind closed doors. A husband, a father, a man trying desperately to stay strong for the people he loved. Then came the heartbreaking moment that reportedly left Samantha forever changed. According to reports, Kyle allegedly spoke privately with her during one of the final quiet moments inside the hospital room. Sources claim he told Samantha to keep moving forward no matter what happened, to stay strong for their children, to never let grief destroy the family they built together. Those alleged words immediately spread across social media, with fans describing the moment as one of the saddest revelations in NASCAR history. Because suddenly, the tragedy no longer felt distant. It felt painfully human. And according to reports, Samantha became overwhelmed emotionally while remembering that conversation. Some insiders claimed there were moments where she reportedly struggled to finish speaking because the memories were simply too painful. Meanwhile, outside the hospital and across the NASCAR world, tributes continued growing larger by the hour. Fans gathered outside raceways holding candles and wearing old Kyle Busch merchandise. Some brought die-cast cars. Others left handwritten notes thanking him for years of unforgettable memories. Videos showing crowds silently mourning began spreading online, touching even people who weren't NASCAR fans. One emotional clip reportedly showed a father and son standing together beside a racetrack fence, both wearing Kyle Busch jackets while silently watching the empty track. That image alone broke millions of hearts, because it reminded people how deeply sports figures can become part of fans' lives across generations. Soon, NASCAR teams and drivers began honoring Kyle in emotional ways during race weekends. Moments of silence filled packed stadiums. Engines reportedly shut off completely before races as crowds stood quietly in tribute. Some drivers even placed Kyle's number on their cars to honor his legacy. And for many fans, those moments became almost unbearable emotionally, because every tribute forced them to confront the same painful truth again and again. One of NASCAR's biggest stars was never coming back. But perhaps the most haunting part of Samantha's message came near the very end. According to reports, she allegedly said that during Kyle's final days, he still believed there was a chance he could recover. That revelation devastated fans more than almost anything else. Because even while reportedly battling severe illness, Kyle allegedly continued talking about future races, future plans, and life after recovery. He reportedly never stopped fighting mentally. And that made the ending feel even more tragic. To this day, questions surrounding Kyle Busch's reported illness and death continue circulating online. Some fans believe the seriousness of his condition was hidden from the public for too long. Others simply struggle to understand how someone so strong could reportedly decline so suddenly. But beyond all the speculation, one thing became undeniable after Samantha finally broke her silence. Behind the fame, behind the trophies, behind the rivalries and headlines, there was a real family experiencing unimaginable heartbreak. And that reality changed how many people remembered Kyle Busch forever. Not just as a NASCAR legend, but as a man whose final chapter became one of the most emotional stories the racing world had ever witnessed. Even now, fans continue revisiting old interviews, races, and family moments online, searching for pieces of the man they thought they knew. Because legends don't disappear quietly. They leave behind memories that echo long after they're gone. And according to fans who heard Samantha Busch's emotional words, Kyle Busch's story will never be forgotten.